Okay.
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this session, which is all about a discovery of Power BI. Now, this session was recommended to us by one of our members who was really keen to be able to find out more about Power BI. I'd personally never heard of it until it was brought to my attention, and I was recommended our speaker for today by Shelley Fishel, those of you who will know from tomorrow's VA. And I'm very grateful. Had a lovely catch up with Anne, who is based in Ireland, and she had a chat with me, and she's going to break down those barriers for us around about Power BI so we can get more of an understanding of what the package can do and how potentially it can support you in your role. So Anne, it is absolute pleasure to welcome you today. Thank you ever so much for joining us.
Thank you too. That's lovely. All right. So the first thing I'm going to begin with is I'm going to put a link into the chat. All right. There's a cook called Mrs. Beaton that, had a cookbook, and her first instruction was first catch the hare if you want to make hare soup. Right. So the first thing you're going to need to do is actually download that program, which is called Power BI Desktop. It's free of charge. But you just need to know that they kind of update it every month. So I've just put that link in the chat. That's kind of like the starting point on it. And then we're just going to walk through for this 45 minutes or so, just what you need to do in Power BI. And I'll give you a little introduction to myself as well. Okay. So let me just kind of kick the screen. You might have to make me my co-host. Oh, no, I can share. That's fine. Lovely. That's great. So let me just set up my PowerPoint here for a second.
Thanks, Anne. Have you got sharing rights?
I have, yeah, I should have.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Okay, lovely. Let's go. All right. Let's zoom. Yes, introduction to Power BI. So it's basically, this is Microsoft's data visualization tool. So the idea here is that you can take a whole mixture of data and kind of put it together in a sort of a big container and kind of cook up something for it. Okay. A tiny bit, about myself, just a couple of minutes, just a profile. Also known as the Excel lady. People can't remember my name, but you're the Excel lady. I live in the west of Ireland, right beside the Atlantic. Thanks to the glories of technology, I can deliver this here. A website, theexcelexpert.com. I send out a newsletter and tips and tricks. So if any of you want to sign up for that, if you want to just even put yes into the chat at the end, that's fine. And if you don't, that's also completely fine. A freelance Excel trainer for a good while. All right. I've written a number of books, none of which will be optioned by Reese Witherspoon anytime in the near future. All right. Your Excel survival kit, although apparently now on our local thing, there is a program called Spreadsheet, okay, which features someone who is just coming out of a divorce and is now deciding that she's going to rank her conquests on a spreadsheet. Just thought you'd have a fun fact. For those who people think that, spreadsheets are good for nothing, because some people do, right? I also write for BookBoon, create great reports in Excel, get and transform data, create great reports in Word, how to track your training records in Excel, pivot tables explained, start to end, and then the most recent one, using tables. As I said, none of which will be, don't expect to see Tom Cruise starring in any of those in the near future. I'm just writing another book on how to make Excel your superpower. I really do firmly believe, particularly for women, if you leaned into Excel, it can really be transformational in your career. I've seen so many people who let themselves be held back in progressing because they're afraid of Excel. Okay, there is a great episode of Friends where Chandler ends up going to Yemen rather than having a difficult conversation. And I think a lot of people regard Excel in the same kind of way. They'd rather go to Yemen than, get into Excel. I love movies. I love puns. I love crime fiction. More recently, jigsaws and podcasts. Married, we have one son and he's a software engineer. And yes, he gets that from his mother's side of the family. I just recently explained about copy and paste to my husband and he was amazed. There you go. Right. And please feel free to connect to me on LinkedIn if you would like to do so, where I'm there under the Excel lady. Okay. Now, all that boring stuff out of the way, let's talk now about Power BI. Okay. Right. And what I might do is I might just pause at various times, and then if Daniel maybe can let me know if there's anything into it. Okay, so the first thing is that you get your data into a Power BI file, and we're going to look at all that. Okay, And then what you need to do is you're going to link it together with relationships. Any of you who are familiar with Excel, in Excel, there's a thing called vlookups and index match, and more recently, what I like to call XLOOKUP, right? And that basically allows you to tie different data sources together. You have to do that in Power BI as well. You have to find a common thing, if you like, on it. Then you do what's called calculations or measures, another thing on it. You do the visualizations. You need to keep it up to date by refreshing it. And then for you to share it, you need to publish it to what's called Power BI service. So when you're creating your Power BI or your file, you'll use the desktop in the link that I gave you today. Okay. However, later on, if you want to share it with your collaborators or people in your organization, you normally will publish the Power BI service. Right? And this is where for your Office 3, you need an Office 365 subscription and you need to charge, that's an extra charge. I think it's about probably €10, which is probably about maybe £8 per month per person for this Power BI license. As Bill Gates said, nobody ever accused Microsoft of not knowing how to make money, but that's how they make their money on it. Okay, but you could actually start without spending anything at all. So let me just kind of pause there for a second before then we crack on. Anybody got any questions? Questions? So far, so good. Okay, lovely. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to open up a completely blank Power BI desktop here. So let me just kind of share a screen. And when you open it up, this is what you're going to see, right? This is the first thing. And just in terms of, tutorials and loading stuff up, in all fairness, there's loads and loads of stuff there on where to learn things, okay? If you are stuck and you're kind of thinking, I don't even know where to start, here they give tutorials, you can get started, watch the training videos. The forums are really good, but don't go in with questions like, how do I learn Power BI? Work on the issue first and then go into it and say, look, this is what I want to do. How would I do it? And generally speaking, people are very, very helpful. Okay. So when you get into this one, this is where you import your data. Okay. So there's a number of options here. And the place you start from is you go to get data up here. And this is where you would get a whole bunch of different sources on it. So you see there, Excel workbook, blank query. You can get it from websites. If you want to go to more here. Let's give it a second now to see there. And you see there's a whole bunch of different ones on it. Now for some of these, because I know if you want to connect to Sage or some of the other ones, you're probably going to need, connectors for it to do it. And that might be something you need to check with your IT department. What they recommend is that you sort out what you need kind of like from the source, like from your accounts department or whatever, like you do a query on that and only bring in what you need, okay, into basically your Power BI question here. Okay. So that's how you would start with your data. So I'm going to load in a couple of files here, as they say, some I prepared earlier, and you can start from there. So I would start maybe from Excel workbook. And I'm just going to go here to this one. Okay. So here I have a bunch of Excel files. And let's say, for example, I'm just going to choose this one here, Worldwide Importers. Okay, and I click Open. Now, when I do that, over here on the left-hand side, you see I have a number of different tables, transactions, raw data. Any ones with the little sort of two little ears at the bottom, they're Excel sheets, whereas these ones here are tables. So I click on this, and this kind of brings it into me. Now, if you need to do any kind of data cleansing, like if you need to kind of remove columns, if you need to kind of split things, any kind of things like that, what you would do first is you go to transform data. That's a bit like when you're bringing food into the kitchen, you probably need to kind of wash it first. All right, wash it, prepare it. So transform data is like preparing your data. So I could go here, transform data, this one. And this is all very exciting looking all together. And this would be where I would, do various things. So if you're thinking of implementing this for your organization, one of the things you should kind of put onto your radar is learning how to use a thing called Power Query, because that's how you can, clean up data, remove duplicates, all kinds of fun stuff like that. I'm not going to do anything with this. I'm going to close and apply. And this brings me back into this one here, back into the front part of it. Okay, so I now know I've one loaded because it appears over here on the right-hand side. All right. I'm going to bring in one more, and then we're going to look at kind of how you do relationships between them. So again, I go to Excel workbook, and for example, I might just choose cities and click open. Again, you do the same thing again, tick the box for here, and then just click, let's say. Now this time I'm going to load, which means basically sort of bring it straight to the table. Okay, so you're putting this straight into Power BI. So transform means if you have to clean it up a bit. Okay, and I'm going to go to load, this one. Now at this point, you're probably saying, wow, that's exciting. I know, you can hardly contain yourselves, right? And we will look at how we will do that in a minute. But the other thing I want to draw your attention to is that there's 3 icons over here on the left-hand side, right? So the top one is the report view, and we're going to look at creating the visuals in a few minutes. The second one is the data. Okay, so if you're kind of thinking, well, what do I have in there? Click on the data and click over here. So we've got cities and transactions. These are the data I've actually loaded into it. And the third one then is going to be the model, okay, which basically means your relationships. And I'll talk about those in a few minutes. What's happened here then is that it's created a relationship between these two. So I'll talk a little bit about what you need for relationships and so on in a few minutes, and we're going to look at the visualization, but broad strokes, that's how you get your data into Power BI. We're going to look at the visualization in a few minutes. I just want to pause and just see if anybody has any questions. Sorry, yeah.
Are you just cracking us up, Anne? Brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Sorry.
I love your analogy, bring it to the kitchen and wash the food.
Let's just hope that's what happens generally in restaurants. Perhaps not in every restaurant in the world, but one hopes. All right. Okay. Lovely stuff. So anybody got any questions at this point? Okay, lovely. Contain the excitement of Power BI, etc. All right. Yeah. All right. So I'm just going to, let's say, current slide. I'll talk about the visualization in a few minutes. So this is the stuff I'm going to talk about here is kind of in some ways maybe it's interesting. This is the stuff that kind of it's not the what quote unquote the kind of like the sexy stuff, but this is the stuff that kind of happens in the background that needs to let the other bit happen. Right. So just a reminder about the importing and so on. So if you're importing data from multiple sources into Power BI, the first thing you need to know is they must have something in common. Okay, so that could be like an invoice number, customer ID, transaction number. They must have something in common, and because you have to link them on something. They need to be the same data type. So if you're trying, for example, to link dates with dates, both should be dates or both should be text, right? And the thing about Power BI is that it won't work, but it won't always tell you why it's not working, or it'll give you some slightly obscure technical thing that you have to frantically Google to figure out what it's trying to tell you. Okay. You then have this thing of what they call a primary key versus a foreign key. Okay. So a primary key would be like your car registration, all right, or your national insurance number. It's a unique identifier, okay, or your customer ID. So somewhere you have a table that lists all your customers and they each have a unique ID. And then the idea would be that there'll be another data set where you have all the customers listed with the invoices. So you're hoping that, for each customer, you will have many invoices. And that is the idea of what they call, a one-to-many relationship. Okay. Again, back to that thing of only import what you need, particularly if you're pulling it in from externally. And there'll be an option if you're kind of thinking, well, you know, you do the query, but then you can refresh as you go along. You have to clean up the data, use model relationships, or put them together. Now, what we're going to look at next, okay, so just kind of a refresh on that one. So what I want to just look at next, I'm now going to look at, once you've got that set up, like how do you actually then, you know, start creating your visualizations? So let me just stop the end slideshow for a second. Let's just stop the share. All right, never excited. Oh, Tracy, what is, you know, is your life not complete with an Excel spreadsheet? No, I think you should watch that program about spreadsheet. It has that woman who used to be in the IT crowd. I don't know if you know her. Catherine Parkinson, that's the woman. All right, she's in it, and she's very, you know, she's very droll and very funny. Okay. Okay, so let me just go to that. Now I'm going to open another one that I have, as they say, prepared earlier.
I'm just interested, Dan, while you do that. Has anyone ever used Power BI? Yeah,
that's a good question.
No.
I'm about to. I've had a very brief touch on it. A colleague's used it. We're going to try and create a dashboard report.
Oh,
so
right.
I've had a very brief sort of look at it, but I need to start using it. So hence why I'm here today.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. And Michelle,
Yeah.
you're going to say something?
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, Dan, no, we're doing some stuff at Higgs that we think it would be great for, that we currently use Excel for, but it's a bit more limiting. So hence I've got Gemma with me as well. She's our whiz with Excel. I'm not so much.
Okay.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Lovely. Just remind me, actually, I have a list of resources that are really good, that kind of a mixture of books and websites and stuff. So just remind me about it, and I'll, you know, if you're interested, just maybe give your address to Daniel, and I can organize to send it out to you. Okay.
Thank you.
It's, you know, some a mixture, in all fairness, a mixture of men and women. All right. I try to keep the thing. There's a lot of bros in the world, but you know, there's you know, some great women doing some great work on it. So I want to support that. All right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, just make sure you just, if you can maybe let Daniel know, and then I can put it together and just send it to you, and that would be great. Okay. All right, now let me just go share my screen here now. Okay, so now I want to talk a little bit about the visualization piece. Okay. Now, the thing I'm going to say to you about the visualization piece is data visualization is kind of a field to itself. All right. And I'm going to show you what I've done, but I always think it's one of these ones where I always think I can do better, to be honest with you. And I know people are more visual, so we'll have a look at a few things on that one. Okay, so let me just share my screen here again. And I'll walk you through how I'm going to create this one here. So, all right. So what we're going to look at is, we're going to see if we can kind of, in our time we have, maybe create something like this. All right, we're not going to use every single thing in it, but just create something like this, which is quite interactive. Okay, so we're going to start maybe with an image. You have your text box. We're going to have, these are things called cards. Okay, like cards would be like the one number summaries, like what's our total sales, you know, like how many customers do we have, that kind of thing. Then you have your slicers on the left, which allow you to slice and dice. And then I have my matrix charts, which for those of you familiar with Excel are like pivot tables. And then we have our other charts down here at the bottom. So we're going to look basically kind of at 6 things, which is like the image, like a text box, single row cards, slicers, matrix, and charts. There are many, many charts in Power BI, and they're adding to it all the time. So let's just see what this looks like in practice now. Let me share the screen again. Yeah, lovely. All right. So what we're going to do here is I'm just going to start with kind of a blank sheet down here at the bottom. So when you go into Power BI, all right, you're going to go down here to the bottom. You're going to have like a blank canvas. Okay. So I'm just going to, let's say, insert my image. So I just go up here to insert, and I go to image. And let's say there's my bicycle icon. I'll just click and drag on the bicycle. Okay. If you want to add a background color, what you need to do is you need to come over here, and then you have this one here, which is your visualizations. All right. So basically, this is your data under the fields, and these are your visualizations. So if I want to change the background color, I can click here. Let's say, for example, go to area beneath the visuals. I can add in a color. I might just choose a pale green. And let's say I can just knock down the transparency. All right. And you can use that to change the color if you want to. Okay, just the background color. If I want to then, let's say, insert a text box, again, insert text box. And I'm just going to add my text here. Let's say Adventure Works. Okay, and let's click up this one here, and then maybe move it along. It's always a bit, this can always be a little bit fiddly, so I just need to highlight it. And given the time we have, I'm probably just going to get enough to just get you up and running with it. So there goes Adventure Works. And then if you kind of bear in mind, again, the thing you want to do is you create it, and then the place you customize this is over here, kind of in the middle. And this bit in the middle will change depending on what you've chosen, just so you kind of know that. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I want to add my cards. So again, for example, let's say go to choose my card from here. You can see, again, it's always worth your while having a look here, see what I want to do. Card. And what I'm going to do then is I'm just going to, let's say, drag a, let's say now. These are some of the measures I've done. And let's say I might just do total sales. So just drag sales onto it. Okay, and just give my 5 million total sales. And then I can get and format it. So if you kind of realize that there's that kind of pattern to it, you choose your visuals, add your data, and then you can kind of format the visuals. So for example, I might go, let's say, to general, add a title. And this is going to call this, let's say, a demo measure, or let's say total sales. Sales. And then let's say I might add effects, I might add a background. And I'm just going to maybe add a darker green. All right. Now, once you've got one done, all right, the secret then is you to use like right click, copy visual, and then I would just do my Control V to paste, and then Control V to paste again. And then what I would do then is just customize this, click this one. This is where you customize it on this one. And for example, I might say that's going to be my total costs. That changed total costs, and click on this one, and I might add this to my profit. Okay. Now I'm going to add slicers. All right. So again, you make sure you have to click on the canvas before you do a new visual. And I'm going to go to my slicers over here. And if I come over here to category, again, I'm just drag that down onto it. And then I can customize this, for example, again, click on it. I might say go to slicer settings, and let's say I might want it to be a drop down. So again, you customize the elements over here in that middle bit on the right hand side. Drop down, and I might just say as well, there we go, options. Stick with the visual for the time being. Say selection. And let's say I want it to be, let's say, single select on. So for example, then if I come up here and then let's say choose bicycle, see that bicycle, I can see these changing each as I go along. All right, it's completely kind of interactive. All right, paint, obviously they didn't bother with paint. Saddles. And then if I want to set it back up then to, let's say, my selection, reset to the default. Now the next one then I might just, again, I can come over here maybe to the general and choose the effects, and I might just add, let's say, a background color, maybe make that a little bit darker green. Right. So again, this is just this one, category here. Let's go. And let me just kind of click on it again. Oh yeah, no, that was the other one I wanted to select all. All right. That allows me then just to select all to reset it. And let's say, for example, then I want to do the same thing for countries. Again, click on the canvas, choose my slicer, and I might just choose it, for example, by sales territory, add country to it. See, I can add the countries to it, reset in a similar way. And then let's say then to add the charts to it, if I click on it, if I just go back to my overview, all right, you can see there that it's starting to take shape a little bit. And then I could also go to this one. And for example, let's say to this one, and let's say maybe add a scene effects and add a shadow. All right. Somebody said to me once, if you add a shadow to it, it always makes it look better. Okay. So click on this one. And what would have been smarter for me to do would have been to do the first one exactly the way you want it, and then copy and paste that. Okay. Shadow. And then if, let's say I want to add a matrix chart, which is the other one here, I'm going to do profit month by month. Okay, so again, you just click, make sure you click on the canvas, click on the matrix one over here. And again, just resize. Again, you can then build it over here in this middle bit. So let me remind myself what I had here. Okay, so the countries and the months here as well.
Sorry, Anne, can I just ask, when you hover over the icons, does it tell you the names that you know the names you've been sharing with us? Does it tell you the names of what each of those icons are?
It does, yeah. Like, so for the visualization, if I go here, for example, see there's some of them that tells you maps. Can you see there?
Mm-hmm.
All right, clustered bar chart. Is that your question, Daniel? Yeah. Or
yeah. Sorry, I was just checking because when you're doing it, it's just if anyone's watching this back and they pause on the areas, it's just so they can.
Okay, sure. Yeah, good. Yeah.
Amazing.
Again, you know, yeah, that's it. All right. And let's say, for example, then I choose the matrix one. And again, I can come here and let's say I want to add my, say, countries to here, into the rows. Let's say I want to add the month name into the columns. Okay. And let's say to go to clear, that's another way just to clear it off. It's back again, January, February. And then what I want to do is just go here to the current. And for example, let's say I'm going to add my total sales here. So now I just need to make sure I've clicked on this one on this one first, because this changes until I click on it. So let's say for example, let's say just go total sales. Okay. Now, one other feature then I can kind of add here to this is I can add a little bit of conditional formatting. So it draws the eye to the bigger numbers. So if I go over here beside this one, conditional formatting, and then see there it says background color. And I might just say values only, and I just click, yeah, okay. So you can kind of add a little bit of background color to it as well. And if I kind of think, oh, I don't like that, just go to this one, remove conditional formatting. And let's say I think I had it on data bars, conditional formatting, and then to data bars. Okay, and I'll just click OK. So again, it kind of you can see then, for example, that our August sales were kind of in United States were one of the highest numbers on it. And of course, if I come back here to this one, I can then just use Australia. See there, Canada, France. Okay, and if I want to see, for example, okay, look, what do we have in bicycles, for example, in France? You think that with the Tour de France, they'd have better bicycles, but no, that's it. Okay. I kind of get the saddles there and just go back to select all. And then just this one then I want to show you, it's just on the line chart. So then what you could do then is just come over here and just go copy visual. And then you need to do Control V. Now I have to say, I was doing this with somebody this morning. They were saying that they had issues. And I suppose if that happens, what you just might need to do is, because I've seen this happen before, it's just if it doesn't work the first time, do it the second time. This is IT. You always have to kind of maybe do it the second time or whatever. Just drag it down a fraction. So what I want to do now is just do the year-to-date numbers on this one. So I'm going to do one of these measures here. So what I do is just drag over my year-to-date profit on the second one, and I'm going to knock off the sales. Just want the 1 on it. Okay. So then I could kind of click on it, do my conditional formatting, data bars, and then click OK. All right, and again, you can kind of see the data bars again. So year to date, you know, the profit then, you know, again, kind of September in Australia is looking pretty good too. All right, and then you just need to even them up. Right. Now, one other thing I would just want to show you on this as well, and is, which can be and this also works in PowerPoint, is if you have the 3 of them selected, and I'm just selecting the 3 of them with my control key, so clicking control, and then I go to format, there's an option up here that allows me, see there, align. I can align them across the top, or I can go align and distribute, you know, horizontally. Because, you know, whatever talents God gave me, it wouldn't have been in the architectural department. So you wouldn't have let me loose on anything like this at all. So distribute horizontally means that they line up nice and evenly, okay? As opposed to, you know, spending hours frantically getting them to kind of try and line up. Now, I just want to maybe just touch on, for example, over here, I've got some calculations, all right? These are called the measures. So you know it's a measure because you see a little calculator beside it. So let's see, how would I, you know, for example, create one of these, do the measures that I need to add to it. Right. And I'm just going to maybe pick a table here. And let's say, for example, I'm just going to say, pick now, maybe total tax amount. Okay, I just want to get total tax amount. So this is a measure. So I just go to home. I go to new measure. And when this happens, it's, you know, there's similarities between it and Excel, but I go here to new measure, and I would just call this, for example, total tax. So the measure appears on the left-hand side of the equals. And now what I want to do is do a measure that kind of adds up my tax. So I can just go sum, and then double click. And then if you notice here, all the tables I have come up. So for example, let's say I want to get this from my, let me see over here, my current. So I just, as I start typing this in, and then I can scroll down, and let's say I'm going to get my total tax amount. And then I close that. And then if I come up here then to my format, I can then, let's say, for example, choose my currency and just set the format on it. Just change it to 0. And then I kind of have that measure anywhere I want to use it. So I'm just going to stop the share for a second and just check in if people have any questions. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it because it's quite small on screen, which isn't anyone, you know. It's fine, but when you, that's why I'm grateful to Anne that she's let us record it, because we can go back and have a look at those areas. So I think today we just wanted to make sure you understood what you could use Power BI for. I think it seems like some of you are kind of quite close to using it and thinking, oh, how am I going to get involved in this, and what, how much time is it going to take to do it? But from an overview perspective, it looks fantastic that you can pick out all of those things from all those spreadsheets and display it in that way. I think it looks great.
Yeah, like Maria, just to answer your question, yeah, absolutely. It is similar to MS Access, built on the same idea, you know, relationships between tables, put it together, definitely the same idea as well. Okay. I wanted to show you one or two other things. Anybody else got any other questions? Yeah, sure. Yeah, Rachel.
Hi, Anne. I've got a new database which we're using, a membership database. If I download the data from a number of Excel sheets, I can collate them all together in one. It doesn't have to be different sources, does it? It could all be Excel and then bring it together. All be Excel. Yeah, absolutely. As long as they have that relationship, maybe like your membership number. Yeah, you need to have something that kind of, there's like an ID for the bookings. It's for our conference we're using it for. So it's got an ID number. So I think I could use that as my, what do you call it, the master data. Is that the right expression?
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you
for that. Yeah. Right. I suppose what you might need to think about is like, what do you want to see on the, you know what I mean? What do you want to see? That's probably almost like a step back to think, okay, what do I want to see here as well?
Yeah, and it's fine getting it in, but is it going to be useful to whoever I'm going to pass it on to? It's the
Exactly,
headline
yeah.
stuff I want. Really.
Yeah. So then you kind of have to, yeah, absolutely, Fiona. You can use it from, spreadsheets, or you could use it from, there's a whole bunch of data sources there. Let me just share the screen here now for a second.
And have I got to download the data to an Excel spreadsheet for me to, or can Power BI use the data direct from that source? So, for instance,
direct from that source, yeah. Let me just share the screen here. So what you could do, for example, like if I go here to get data, like what kind of data have you got, Fiona? What are you thinking of?
Yeah, so a little bit like, so we've got a database as well. We've got a client database. And then obviously we've our clients use Excel, Sage and QuickBooks,
Right.
Zero, that kind of thing. So, and what's happening is we've got different departments that are using the same data source, but they're producing different control lists. And really what I wanted to try and do is bring all that data to one platform so we can see it in one visual rather than having to go into like 5 different spreadsheets or 5 different sources.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. As they say in data, one source of truth as opposed to many sources of truth. Yeah, right. So if you, for example, go in here into more, see if I go out here to get data and then I go to more, all right. I'm sure Sage is in it because I know I was working on a project a while back, and see, for example, there are other, if I go down here, see there's loads and loads of them. See them there? See if Sage is in it. I know for a fact you can use Sage with it. All right. Database. Famous last words, but yeah, you can definitely use Sage with it. So I'd kind of have a look at those to see where you need to, what you do need to watch out for though is, you might need to get somebody in your IT department to actually set up the connectors, because that can be a little bit tricky. All right, just to have that. Okay. All right. Yeah, the one other thing I want to show you here is, which is very useful, is, for example, if I go here to view, there's an option here for themes. Okay, like for me, the piece that's always interesting are the formulas and all that. That's the piece that's interesting to me. But for example, if you use a theme here, see, for example, it says electric, or I can use one of these. Do you know what I mean? If you can use one of the pre-existing themes, it kind of does the formatting for you. All right, and it will be tighter than that. And also, if you go, for example, here to theme gallery, you can see some really clever ideas of what people have done. Right, let me just get view share here for a second. Check you can see it. There we go. For some reason, I went onto my second monitor. All right, but see there's the themes gallery. See there? So you can see there, you could actually kind of, that's a great place to get ideas about the ways to do things and so on, just with your theme gallery as well. For a second. All right, lovely. Okay. No, to answer your question, it can be in any of those formats. It can be Access, it can be Excel, it can be maybe not Word. Okay, although I have done something in Power Query from Word once, which was fun. It can be kind of in any kind of the formats. If you look under, again, just go to the home, share the screen again. Like if you go to the home, what you're looking for is home, and then get data, and that's where you'll see, and then you've all these ones here, like you've analysis services, all these other ones. But if you go into more, let me just do that. You see there, this is where you can kind of have a look to see, like that I could connect to an Access database, Google stuff, loads of the Azure stuff. See there, like Google Analytics. There's QuickBooks. I knew QuickBooks was there somewhere. See, QuickBooks is there as well. And I think the reason why Sage wasn't is I think it was because it's under a different kind of platform. Now, the last piece I want to show you here is that when you've kind of created your report and you want to share it with people, then you'd have to, what they do, a thing called publish to service. So this is where you need to have your Office 365, and you need to get like a Power BI license. But they'll give you about 60 days free. okay, on it. So let me just do a share here now. Okay, so if I go up here to this one, and this is where, when you publish it to service, then what you can do is you can actually assemble your data from a number of different sources, from a number of different reports, put it together as what they call a dashboard, and then you can kind of share it with your people. All right, so I'm just going to go to publish. I'm just going to say save. Yes, I will. And see there, I've a number of workspaces. Okay, so for example, I might just say, look, that one there. So workspaces will be in your Power BI service. You'll have things like the workspace are like the equivalent of a folder. So you can say, I just want it saved into this folder. And that also allows you to control who has access to it and so on. Select. Just give it a second now to publish. And there's this other cool little feature called Get Quick Insights, which we'll have a look at now. Let's do a new share here. It's going to do its thing for a few minutes. And let's see. Okay. Okay, I might just have to stop that for a second because I think it's gone in the wrong spot for me. I know now what's happened there is it has gone to a different location, but you'd actually just kind of publish it online here. But I'll send you on full details afterwards because I'm also kind of conscious of your time as well. All right. So any other questions people want to ask before we wrap it up? Last 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That's just enough to give you an overview, hopefully.
Yeah, no, I'm really grateful, Anne. I think a lot of people had in their mind, I wasn't quite sure what Power BI was potentially. And I think what you've done is given us a really fantastic overview of what it can do. I think if you and your organization are potentially looking for training, etc. I mean, Anne, can you just tell us a little bit more about what you can offer? Because I can imagine if you're going to implement something like that, then there might be certain people that need to know more about it, etc. as well. Unashamedly, because I want you to tell us what you can do.
Okay. Well, I suppose I offer two main kind of trainings on it. One of them is like a Power BI introduction. All right. And that kind of runs over 4 by 90-minute sessions like this. All right. Okay, yeah, that's fine, Maria, if you find, no problem. Or I can send you all the details afterwards. And again, they'll be recorded. It's on GiraffePad. I use a platform called GiraffePad. And in that, what we'd cover would be, all that stuff there, except we'd also kind of, I give homework, just so you know, you have been warned. I give homework, do the measures. There's the nice little AI facilities in this as well, more on publishing to the service and so on. And then there's also another official course called Dashboard in a Day, which is a Microsoft official curriculum. And that's basically 5 labs. Okay, that's very comprehensive, but they're quite rigid. They insist that you have to be done in a particular kind of way. I don't do it in a day because I think that's mental cruelty. I'll be honest with you, right? Like there's so much in it that I generally run it as 5 by 90-minute sessions.
Okay.
Because like if somebody has been kind of doing something all day, by the time the end of the day comes, it's like keep pouring in. There comes a certain point, it's like I can't take it anymore, right? So I like to teach it like that. It builds it into your day and so on. All right. Okay. And if you sign up to the website, that's where when I run it publicly, you can hear about that as well.
What I'll do is I'll send a follow-up and I'll copy Anne in. And obviously, if you want any of those resources or if you want to be added to a mailing list or sign up to a website, then please get in touch with Anne. She'd love to hear your feedback about today's session as well. And
absolutely,
a massive thank you to you, Anne. Thank you for gifting.
No problem. Thank you.
Today. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Happy to help. Happy to help.
Right.
All right.
Take care, everyone.
Okay. Take care. You're very welcome.
Thanks, Anne.
Mind yourselves.
Really good.
Very
Thank
welcome.
You.
Mind